Grok 4.6 just came out today, so we'll be running it through a few benchmark tests to see what it is capable of. And in typical benchmark fashion, all of these tests are one shot and use the native Grok CLI harness. Now let's begin. First, we have the SR71 test, where the model is asked to make the reconnaissance jet from scratch and then make a cinematic to show the 3D model it made. For a one-shot prompt, I would say it got decently close. There are some very obvious refinements needed for it to actually look like a real SR71, like the canopy and the overall shape of the cockpit, but it does show how much better LLMs have become at making 3D models over the past year. The model took 3 hours and 10 minutes to complete this test. Next, we have the spaceflight test, where the model must make a space game where we can land and take off from a planet. And Grok got the orientation of the ship asset correct, avoiding a common mistake models make. When I looked at its thinking transcript, it actually did QA on that first. The orbit to landing transition was good, adhering to the non-obvious loading screen rule. And once we are in the planet's atmosphere, we have full control, so we manually land the spaceship. Other mechanics like exiting the ship and the character model animations all work correctly. We can traverse the planet smoothly as well. I will say it did not populate the planet with much content. There's not much to look at once you land. Additionally, it shipped a bug that does not allow the plane to take off from the planet, so you can only land. It is quite surprising that it did not QA what is arguably the most important gameplay feature in the whole test. I thought it might have been a button misconfiguration or that a sequence of buttons had to be pressed, but nope, it simply did not complete the request. So I'm deeming this test a failure for the model. On the Campfire test, it did a great job. Attention to detail here, especially the quality of the fire and the sparks, matches the output you would typically get from Opus 5. It also contains the moon and stars, which a lot of models do not include in this test, though the trees are the weakest part of this generation, appearing flat for the most part. Next, we have the Neon Gunner test, where it generates a 2D platform shooter with everything being destructible. It made the whole game loop successfully, with all of the features and mechanics working, including checkpoints, scoring, and shooting as well. The NPCs also function correctly in this test. Next, we have the off-road truck test. Even though Grok 4.6 took an hour to generate this, there are a lot of bugs that render the test a failure. Parts of the car are invisible, the steering is inverted, and the vehicle takes off when you accelerate. This is the worst generation I've seen from a model of this size and caliber on this specific test. As for what's causing the variance in performance, one can speculate. We will see how it performs in a second attempt when we put it directly against other models in a future video, but as it is completely unplayable. Next, we have a quest creation test, where it has to create a new quest in this game build, as well as use APIs to generate the accompanying audio and dialogue for the story mission. Just like other models, it passed this test quite easily, only taking 21 minutes to generate the quest. The quest consists of talking to person A and then fetching an object for them. When we return, people in the town start shooting at us. After we eliminate 2 people in the town, we are no longer wanted and can talk to the same NPC to complete the mission. The whole quest took roughly 10 minutes to play through. Next, we have the arena test, where the model must make this whole battle arena environment from scratch. Grok did quite well here. The detail it added to the floor design and the lamps in the background stood out. One thing I found interesting is that there is a huge structure behind the wall. Other models typically show the structure that they build so players can see it while fighting, but Grok hid it behind a wall, so we do not fully see everything it built from this angle. The generation took a total of 22 minutes, which is pretty good for an environment like this. With the JRPG test, it excelled and completed it in 19 minutes at a cost of $3.08. All the game's mechanics function correctly. The floor textures and backdrop match the theme of the scene and do not look out of place like we've seen with other models. The animations and magic special effects have decent detail as well. On the Neo-Gothic City test, the water it generates does not look that convincing compared to what we've seen from other models. The top of the buildings also look detached and appear to be levitating as well. This output would place below many models. So again, Grok 4.6's performance ranges significantly from test to test. On the Cathedral test, it performed very well. Granted, there are some flaws though, like the glass in the window sticking inward instead of aligning with the wall. But the interior detail is similar to that of Opus 5, especially the pillars, the walls, and floor reflections. This generation could place higher than GPT 5.6 Soul in a blind test. Next, we have the MacBook Pro test, where it is given the factory specifications and dimensions of a MacBook Pro and must build one from scratch, then make an advert using that build. As we can see from the output, the big details are correct. If you ignore the flickering in the shot under the chassis, there are no issues with the assembly, keyboard, screen, or MacBook frame. But the smaller details that make it a MacBook Pro are missing, such as the correct ports or even the small center groove used to open the screen. Next, we have the Outpost diorama. Again, the amount of detail and content populated into the scene is similar to an output from Kimike 3 or Opus 5, though the placement of certain assets do not make any sense. The general aesthetic here is there. It has a lot of details on the walls of the tower and buildings, and even had fun with the landscape. The cost came in at just under $2 with an 11-minute generation time. Moving to the Jungle Temple diorama, Grok 4.6 does terribly. The temple is not complete and the entire scene is mostly empty. From the looks of things, it couldn't decide where to place the temple. At least the bridge looks good and is connected end to end, but this result is quite surprising given what we saw with the Oasis Outpost diorama. It's very rare a model can have this much drift between different voxel diorama tests. The jungle one is the hardest of the three for most models on average, but the gap in performance between outputs is never this big. Maybe this can be a day one inference issue, but Claude or GPT don't have this great of a performance drift between tests. Their capabilities are more consistent throughout. Lastly, we have the Shrine Village test. It gets a lot of things right, but also a lot wrong. The most obvious issue is the bridge in the middle of the pond. Judging by the footpaths it created, it may have been heading towards a four-way bridge before stopping. But setting scene congruency aside, the general aesthetic it chose for this diorama looks good. Most things look proportional. Although the torii gates look relatively thick, that is simply a design preference, given some can be that large. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.